It didn't take long for Israel to continue its breaches of the ceasefire in Gaza. Just one day after the peace summit that was carried out in Sharm el-Sheikh, talking about the ending of the war and finding a long-term solution and a path for peace in the region. Today, Israel reportedly killed at least 7 people inside of the Gaza Strip with multiple strikes in the areas of Khan Yunis and Gaza City. Okay, is that the new reality that Israel is trying to impose? What are they doing here? Well, from an Israeli perspective, they're saying that Hamas is actually breaching the agreement. Why? Because they only handed in 4 of the bodies of the dead prisoners of war today instead of all of them. Although the Palestinian resistance told them before it's going to take them a long time to find the dead or the remains of the prisoners of war who Israel killed in Gaza, because of the locations and because of the huge amounts of rubble in multiple parts where they could have been killed. Also, the Israeli terror forces are still in the same areas that some of these bodies would be in. Therefore, the Palestinian resistance will not be carrying out and actually cannot carry out any sort of action to take these bodies and hand them to Israel, with Israeli forces being present there, because Israel is shooting in Gaza at anyone coming close to its forces or what they view as a threat, let alone actual blatant breaches of the ceasefire. Israel is pretending like it really didn't know that Hamas told them that there was going to be a delay, although that was very clear from the beginning. What they're trying to do here appears to be a new norm where they're going to call it a ceasefire, like they're calling what is happening in Lebanon a ceasefire. No genuine large-scale intensity and barbarism and full-blown genocide, but a slow-paced genocide, slow-paced barbarity, and slow killing rather than an accelerated rate killing day to day. Okay, what are the mediators going to do about it? Well, we heard that all of them are going to protect this ceasefire and everything is going to happen. As a matter of fact, we heard statements from none other than the Turkish president, who threatened Israel, saying that there will be a heavy price if Israel breaches the ceasefire, if Israel restarts the genocide, to be more specific, inside of the Gaza Strip. What is that heavy price? And what are the mechanisms to implement this price, or for Israel to force Israel to pay this price? How is that going to happen? And what are they going to do exactly? I mean, we as people deserve to know that. As a matter of fact, we deserve to know what these people signed on exactly. There was a peace agreement being signed by everyone, and we don't know what it entails exactly. Aren't the people entitled to know exactly what this agreement talks about? There was no representation from all of the Palestinian side, only the head of the Palestinian Authority, and it didn't really include that many countries. After all, everything is looking shady, but there were certain statements that Donald Trump had that are worth noting. Let's have a look at what Donald Trump had to say earlier on.
And initially speaking, they did take out a couple of gangs that were very bad, very, very bad gangs, and they did take them out, and they killed a number of gang members. And that didn't bother me much, to be honest with you. That's okay. We had a couple of very bad gangs. It's no different than other countries. Like Venezuela sent their gangs into us, and we took care of those gangs. We have Washington, D.C. is one of the safest cities in the country. It was one of the worst cities in the country if you go back just a little while ago, right? Now it's safe. You can walk to work. Isn't it nice?
Donald Trump here was actually mentioning when the Palestinian resistance was targeting the collaborators with Israel, saying that he doesn't have a problem with that yet again. Yesterday he mentioned similar statements too, but now he's validating that further. He had to clarify, though, when he was asked, well, are the Palestinians going to disarm? What's going to happen in that regard? And he responded with this statement over here.
We have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm. Do you understand me?
Yes, you say
because you
quickly.
always, everyone says, oh, well, they won't disarm. They will disarm. And I spoke to Hamas, and I said, you're going to disarm, right? Yes, sir, we're going to disarm. That's what they told me. They will disarm, or we will disarm them. Got it? Okay.
What is
next.
Okay, what happened there wasn't, of course, a full picture coming from the American president about what Hamas told. And Hamas told everyone clearly that they will only be disarming to a Palestinian state. So should there be a formation of a Palestinian state, they would be disarming. They did not say that they will be disarming as a Palestinian resistance movement. As a matter of fact, there were very many denials coming not only from Hamas, but from other Palestinian resistance factions, because this matter doesn't only include one movement. No one has the right to say, oh, the Palestinians cannot carry arms to fight a genocidal entity. And what Donald Trump is saying here, and of course he's not going to mention everything, is probably these mentions that came from the Palestinian side. Hamas told them, we're happy to disarm so long as we have an army. If we have a Palestinian state, we will hand the arms to the Palestinian state, a sovereign, independent Palestinian state. Now, did Donald Trump interpret that in a different manner? Clearly, he's showing understanding to their use now, killing Israel's collaborators in Gaza and targeting them. What makes us believe that he's not going to show an understanding tomorrow to their weapons, regardless of his statements? Again, we need to firstly not take what is being said as if it's 100% the truth, or a reflection of the actual developments on the ground, or what Trump himself intends to say, actually. Because what we need to understand is Donald Trump says certain things to address different crowds, and he tries to be accurate in representing what that crowd really wants. So far, what we're seeing is Hamas are holding their weapons. They are regrouping. As a matter of fact, they've gathered thousands more to their security forces in Gaza. Israel withdrew from all of these areas that they said they're never going to withdraw from up until Hamas surrenders and gets eliminated. They do have breaches, and things are moving slowly, whether to a new reality where Israel would be carrying out daily killings or targeted assassinations or whatever they're going to do as part of their general genocidal machine, or if it reaches stages with more stability later on, similar to what Gaza has seen before, especially if Benjamin Netanyahu isn't there at one point, and Benjamin Netanyahu isn't going to remain there forever. Assuming that things don't explode all of a sudden, and we go back to square one, and then it's all-out war and a potential attack against Iran that will also retaliate. So far, the breaches in Israel are not only in relation to the killings that are happening, but also in relation to the levels of aid that are going in. As a matter of fact, some of these moves that Israel is conducting contradict its own declared interest in receiving its bodies of prisoners of war who they killed in Gaza by not allowing more heavy machinery, because we saw heavy machinery going into the Gaza Strip, removing rubble, but they need more and more advanced machinery. Israel's not allowing that so far, and that would restrict the Palestinian authorities from conducting search operations to get the bodies of the prisoners of war. So there are machineries going in, there's machinery going in, but not to the level required to carry out larger operations. 200s of aid trucks are going in. The people are finally seeing the things that they want to see from multiple parts, but it's 300 rather than the 600 that were agreed upon. So there are multiple repetitive breaches coming from the Israeli side. How are the mediators going to work on that? And what is the United States going to do? This is where we start to feel like the lack of clarity is much bigger than the clarity, and everything is shady and not straightforward. But Donald Trump had another interview. This time he spoke about the solution, because, this summit, they were talking about a two-state solution. So Donald Trump was asked, does he agree with this, or what is his solution? Let's hear what he had to say.
President, I wanted to ask you about your conversations with world leaders today. You said that everybody is unified over your plan, but we heard from President Sisi calling for a two-state solution, an independent Palestinian state.
Well, you're talking about a different plan. I'm talking about something very much different. We're talking about rebuilding Gaza. I'm not talking about single state or double state or two-state. We're talking about the rebuilding of Gaza.
What's the road ahead for governing
Gaza? Well, we'll have to see. I mean, a lot of people like the one-state solution. Some people like the two-state solution. So we'll have to see. I haven't commented on that.
How do you see bridging that gap? Because you have the Arab countries.
At some point, I'll decide what I think is right, but I'd be in coordination with other states and other countries.
President, I wanted to ask you about.
So a couple of notes that are interesting here in what Donald Trump said. Number one, that they're focusing on rebuilding Gaza. So he's not just talking about the ending of the war, and the war ended, and he said that with Netanyahu and in the summit too. He's focusing now on rebuilding Gaza too. But he also isn't ruling out a one-state solution. And that is a point that is very, very important for various reasons. Number one, there was no previous American president during his term, while he's in office, that actually said that we're looking to have a one-state solution in relation to Palestine or Israel. They always followed the path of a two-state solution. The fact that the American president, who has the power to enforce things on the ground, the fact that he's mentioning a one-state solution raises alarm bells with the Israeli side for various reasons. Number one, because from an Israeli perspective, they don't want any Palestinian state. They want an Israel or a greater Israel that will be the continuation of the current ethnocracy, apartheid, and Jewish supremacy expanded. Jews have rights, the others are others. They're slaves, they're things to be used or abused, or however they view and see them. However, there are other people who call, including myself, I call for a one-state solution, for example, but that solution would have equal rights to all inhabitants of the land, regardless of their race or religion, and everyone would be able to get what they need from a system perspective, from a governmental perspective, from an authorities perspective. They would be viewed as equal in rights in front of the law. What is Donald Trump talking about exactly? A continuation of the Israeli apartheid, or is he also mentioning something that can be an all-out solution? The fact that he didn't clarify or said that he didn't have a position while still mentioning the actual prospect of that solution is a significant development. We've never heard that before. And as a matter of fact, if he is purely now focusing on rebuilding Gaza, and we view some progress rather than this being another form of deception or a preparation for something more malicious, not only towards the Palestinian people, but other countries as well, there could be a bigger prospect here for a solution that both the American administration and the Western establishment as a whole had to support from a very long time ago. This is the only solution that will have the bigger chances of ending the bloodshed and ending the war and ending this uncertainty for the future. No authority will remain for the Zionist institution the apartheid system, which has to be dismantled, including by force, and also the implementation of an entity, a country, that has equal rights between the Jordan River to the sea. That's the most sane, that's the most logic solution. And I believe that more voices should be calling for this solution to be implemented. Not only those who are calling for the Palestinian rights, but also in the influential circles too. If there are any individuals in influential positions who might have a say, these things are very important to put forward, because if they do so, and if they do so successfully, and what we saw in the past several years is that the people's demands resonate or have an impact on the establishments, and the establishments start to take certain actions that they didn't necessarily want to take because of this public pressure. This shows a level of possibility for such a solution to be implemented. Because really and truly, the two-state solution was a way to preserve the life of Zionism, prolong the life of Zionism, and embed ethnocracy and Jewish supremacy over the biggest part of historical Palestine. Completely remove the right to return of the Palestinian people, and not have a Palestinian state that has any real sovereignty based on de facto actions being taken by the Israeli authorities. But seeing as President Trump himself now is speaking about a potential of a one-state solution, I think that more voices should be calling out for this solution to be implemented as soon as possible, so that there can really be a lasting peace, rather than another whitewashed crime and whitewashed genocide that will only lead to more and more bloodshed and more uncertainty and more crimes moving forward.